Per my blended stat of 4 advanced metrics, Russell Wilson is a tier 3 of 5 quarterback. And with that said, he is still roughly average because he's on the highest end of tier 3. But conversely, Lamar Jackson is the number 1 overall quarterback, and as you could imagine, a tier 1 quarterback out of 5. So that is a big advantage for the Ravens. I'm not going to be one of those people that say, well, Lamar shrinks in the playoffs, so, it's actually better to have Russell Wilson than Lamar Jackson. No, Lamar Jackson is better than Russell Wilson. With that said, the next advantage is between George Pickens and Marlon Humphrey, where Pickens is 28th in yards per route run versus Marlon Humphrey, who's 3rd in PFF coverage grade. So, with that said, there is a advantage for Marlon Humphrey and the Ravens. They also have an edge in that there will be a lot of direct one-on-ones between Humphrey and Pickens, as Humphrey plays a very high 35% of his coverage snaps in man coverage, which the average is about 26%, so 9 percentage points higher than average. Humphrey is very good in man coverage, so there's no issue with Humphrey having the advantage here, so I give the advantage then to the Ravens, so it's 2-0. The next advantage is for the run game through the lens of the Steelers, and they have a very poor ground attack as they rank 24th in rushing expected points added. So, very, very rough. And the Ravens are great in run defense, ranking 3rd in run defense expected points added. So that's another advantage for the Ravens. It's 3-0. We finally get an advantage for the Steelers here, though, with Cam Hayward being 22nd in pressures versus Daniel Falele, who's 42nd in PFF pass blocking grade for guards. So Hayward has a pretty big advantage. He will oftentimes be single covered because there's just not enough double teams to go around for the entire Steelers defensive line, because you have Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt, Keanu Benton, and then, of course, Cam Hayward. So I look at this through the lens of one-on-ones because it's hard to predict who they're going to double team. I think if they had to double team one player, it would mostly be Hayward, not because he's better than Watt, but because he's closest to the quarterback, obviously, as a defensive tackle. So, with that said, I think that you can look at this through the lens, though, of one-on-ones, and Hayward will have the advantage there. So that's one advantage for the Steelers. They finally go on a roll here, which is what they needed to, as they were starting to get pummeled. But the second advantage for the Steelers, as you could probably imagine, is with TJ Watt, who is a crazy high 31st in pressures, but he's going against Roger Rosengarten, who's 42nd in pass blocking grade amongst offensive tackles. It's kind of funny that he and Falele are 42nd and 42nd, but they're for different positions. Either way, Watt is going to have the edge because he's better than his pressure rank would suggest. I don't know where exactly he would rank because this has been a down year for him, so it's hard to project. Usually you can bank on him being a top 3 edge rusher. This year, I don't know if he's been top 3, but he's definitely not the 31st best edge rusher either, or not the 31st best front 7 player because this includes defensive linemen and linebackers as well. Next is a kind of standstill with Alex Highsmith ranking 41st in pressures, which is really impressive because he missed 6 games. So he could be far higher in this rank, but he's going against Ronnie Stanley, who's 20th in pass blocking. So I've looked at some research on, or I've done some research rather. There hasn't really been documentation on what is a notable difference in ranks of stats, but I've looked at what the percentages are for certain ranks, and I've developed the idea that about a 7 rank difference is notable. So I don't think that Highsmith would have been the 13th best in pressures. So I don't give an edge to anybody here, but there certainly is the chance that Highsmith is going to get some pressures against Stanley because Highsmith is fantastic. Stanley is as well, but when you have a great defensive lineman against a great offensive lineman, it just takes 1 or 2 plays for the defensive lineman to win the entire battle. So I would lean Highsmith, but I wouldn't lean heavily in his direction. Shifting now to the Ravens' perspective, if you're enjoying this video, make sure you like and subscribe as I'll be pushing out a ton of football and later NBA content. And with that out of the way, the next matchup is also a deadlock though, as Mark Andrews is 38th in yards per route run versus Patrick Queen, who's 57th in PFF coverage grade. So there would be an advantage there. But Peyton Wilson mitigates that tremendously because Wilson is 5th out of all linebackers in PFF coverage grade. Wilson is solid at his 29% man coverage rate, so he might take on Andrews a fair amount by himself. And he has an insane 92 PFF grade when doing so. So he is really good in man coverage and he plays it a fair amount. So that's good stuff. He's really good in coverage as a whole. So there's no deficiencies in his game in that realm. The next advantage is for the ground attack of the Ravens versus the rushing defense of the Steelers. And this is going to go to the Ravens. So it'll be 5 advantages to 2. The Ravens have the second best rushing expected points added rush attack in the league, only behind the Eagles, if you were wondering. And the Steelers are 17th in run defense expected points added. So not very good, surprisingly, despite having a great front 7. The Steelers oftentimes disappoint in the run defense side of things, as they just do not match up with as well as you would expect them to, because you have Cam Hayward in the middle, who's great. Admittedly, Keanu Benton is not good as a run defender, so that is half of the defensive tackle unit not being good. But you have TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith that might be, I don't know, at a minimum, the top 3 edge rushing run defense duo. So you have that, and then now they have solid linebacker play, especially with the Landon Roberts being out there on running downs. It's a bit curious that they aren't better than they are. Anyways, as for the defensive line of the Ravens now, Nnamdi Madubuike is 22nd in pressures, and he will be going against Mason McCormick, assuming he is healthy. He has an arm injury, I believe, that was rather severe. I don't remember what it was, but it was something very notable. And McCormick is 42nd in pass blocking grade in a natural setting. Madubuike will be the player that the Steelers oftentimes double, as they will be taking Zach Frazier and McCormick, if again McCormick plays. Frazier will rank as the 11th best center in pass protection, which is pretty solid. There's about 36 centers, I believe, in PFF rankings. So 11 is definitely solid. Next, we have Kyle Van Noy, who is 34th in pressures. He will be having a major edge against Broderick Jones, as basically every edge rusher does, as Broderick Jones is 70th in pass blocking grade, and that is over double what Kyle Van Noy's rank is for all players on the defensive line, or in the front seven, I should say. So that is a big edge for the Ravens, taking them up to 6 edges compared to 2 for the Steelers. And unfortunately for the Steelers, the final matchup is also in favor of the Ravens, as Odafe Owe is 41st in pressures, and he's going against Dan Moore, who's 51st in pass blocking grade. So that is advantageous for the Ravens once again. And with that said, as for the prediction for the game, I'm going to go with the team that has 7 advantages versus the team that has 2, which is what the ranks end up being in total. I think the Ravens have a pretty clear path to winning this game. Not only are they at home, I think they're the better team with a better quarterback. And I think that's kind of the trifecta of selecting a team to win. They have so much in their favor matchup wise. George Pickens is basically the only real receiving threat for the Steelers. Pat Freiermuth is also solid, but you can't really hitch your offense to Freiermuth, at least not to this point in his career. And Pickens is going to be neutralized to some degree by Marlon Humphrey. At least you can project that. Pickens is so good that he might be able to go against Humphrey, who is also very good. But I would lean Humphrey in that matchup. And I think that that's kind of neutralizing the entire passing offense of the Steelers right there. And in addition to that, this Ravens offense is legit. So it's going to be hard to go against in any situation, let alone when you're not firing on all cylinders. Those are my thoughts on the game. Be sure to let me know what yours are in the comment section. And also be sure to like and subscribe for more football content.